Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What is up, guys? Dave here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review, and for this review, Duncan Kyle and I have been checking out the re-release of Phantasmagore from Deadsy. The album was released on November 2nd and is now available on all digital streaming platforms. I will pop a few links in the description below so you can check it out. This band is made up of Elijah Blue Allman on lead vocals, guitar and programming, Alec Puro on drums and programming, Ren Hockey on keyboards, synthesizer, Carlton Bost on Zetar and guitar, and Craig Riker on bass. So, originally released in August 2006, Phantasmagore is Deadsy's second album, which followed up the band's 2002 debut, Commencement. And you may be wondering to yourselves, why? Why have Deadsy re-released an album that came out 14 years ago? Well, I have some theories, which we'll go into, but the main reason is that this is a remastered version of Phantasmagore. And you might also be thinking, why this album for review, guys? Why pick Deadsy?
Yeah, no label has sent this in to us to review. No, this is a review of the release. So.
Yes. So one of us here loves him some Undercore.
Yep.
In fact, I have been listening to him spraff relentlessly about Deadsy for almost 20 years now.
Yep.
So
it's about
today,
right. Yeah.
He finally gets to unload his undying love for this band to the rest of the internet. Duncan, tell us about Deadsy.
Blue-balled like a motherfucker on this one. This is like this is Olympic edging. You know what I mean? Edging that's lasted for a decade. Finally ready to blurt this motherfucker out. I like. Right, how to describe this? Right. I have an eclectic taste in music, right? As you've probably gathered from listening to me talk. I never really, put my flag in allegiance to any one specific genre of music. There are certain styles I just don't like, and certain styles in metal that I'm not fond of, but for the most part, I'm eclectic. And I'm a kid of the 80s, and I grew up listening to, my household growing up, Dave, I listened to everything from, Motown, through to rockabilly, blues, funk, and the thing that took most prominence was my mother was a massive fan of the new romantic era of pop. So I listened to a fucking shitload of Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, Human League, Gary Newman. The list goes on and on. Level 42, which is a band that we fucking bonded over, big man. Represent. Yep. Have seen them live 3 times with you, is that right?
Oh, yeah, something
must be
that.
3, yeah, and I think they're coming back next year, just saying. Just saying. So yeah, that's my background. So any, new metal, which we're going to get into, because Deadsy are, they were new metal adjacent. They were never really new metal, but they were kind of lumped in that way. Are a band a lot older than people give them credit for. They're actually founded in 94, I think. And most of the bands that kind of found their way in the new metal genre credit Deadsy with a lot of involvement of playing gigs with them in LA or involvement on their albums, specifically bands like Korn. So it should be no surprise to anyone that when Korn started their label Elementary in the early 2000s, Deadsy were one of the first signings to that, and they released Commencement, which was technically a re-release of their self-titled album Deadsy, with a couple extra songs put on there. Commencement is, in my opinion, just a masterpiece front to back. It's an album which sprawls weird prog and really dark elements and new romantics and kind of new metal stuff, and Undercore is what they described it because the guitar sound is so fucking low, and Elijah Blue Allman, who is the son of Cher, that's right, Cher, and Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers, So he's got he has some fucking lineage. Do you believe in life after love? He's got a bit of that. In fact, he's in that. Remember the music video that she does? What's the name of the? The Cher music video where she sings on the. Is it If I Could Turn Back Time? Where she sings on the carrier ship, aircraft carrier at the end. Is it? Because at the end of that, there's a young blonde-haired boy playing guitar. That guitar is actually, I think it's Slash's guitar, and it's Elijah Blue Allman playing it. So he's been involved with music all his life. He founded the band at his private school because he's rich and doesn't have to do music, which is one of the reasons why I kind of love him, because he doesn't have to do this. He's fucking loaded, but he does it anyway. So Phantasmagore was their second release. They kind of fell out with Elementary, which folded not long after, and then were signed to Metal Epic. They released one album. They did a very short, less than a year tour, and then hiatus. Disappeared off the face of the planet. Have all went off and done. I think the one that's been most musically active is the drummer, Alec Puro, who does scores for movies. So I think he went that way. Ren Hockley, the synthesized player, married what's her name? Vera Farmiga, who's in the Conjuring movies and all the rest. That's who he's married to. So once again, he's fucking loaded. He doesn't have to do this shit. They're all rich, right? Which I think is where a lot of the backlash against the band originally formed from. Well, the rich preppy kids try to break into our scene. How fucking dare they? You know what I mean? They helped 30 Seconds to Mars get signed. All this shit. So been around forever. They have a unique sound, and their unique sound is driven by this really low guitar sound that they have. And his really bassy, it's kind of Pete Steele bass level vocals. And their use of synthesizers. So I'm a massive fan. They have quirky elements that are new metal that go with them. The colours are associated with different things in the band, and they all represent a different aspect of society and all the rest. But first and foremost, I think they write fucking great songs. Phantasmagore is not their best album. Commencement is. Commencement is a really diverse, rich album that leans into 70s kind of. I mean, they cover Tom Sawyer on that album, and I preferred their version over Rush's original. They started off as a covers band. They did primarily covers. Phantasmagore is the commercial sounding album. So this is the album which makes sense to be on Immortal Epic as a record label. It's got great songs. I mean, they cover Painted Black on here. Their cover of Painted Black, I actually quite like. As one of the more aggressive sounding, heavier ones, even though it's still primarily sung. It doesn't sound identical to Painted Black, which everyone that covers that song does. But the moments in the album which are the best for me are not the ones that are the most commercial. So songs like Carrying Over, which is basically him doing a ballad, which is an alright song, which he used as one of their singles, is fine. Razor Love, which is the opener, is fine. It's very commercial sounding. The bits that grab me are the bits that start to do more of the stuff that I like from Commencement, which are specifically tracks like Better Than You Know, which as just like a really cool synth hook, really cool chorus, or The Last Story Ever. Phantasmagore, the name track, they have a song called Time on here, which uses the thing from Led Zeppelin. So they actually use that in the song, and it's weird, but it works. And Health in Theory is like the stereotypical, if you're into the Commencement style of Deadsy, that's their bag. The remaster has been released, as Dave said, cynically, because they have a new album coming out. Their new album comes out early next year. They've been in the studio doing a ton of work on that. I want to say they may have regained the rights to the original masters now, and they've decided to put the album out. And if that's the case, fucking fair play, because I get a feeling the reason they disbanded after a year is because the deal they signed with Immortal Epic was fucking shite. And that's usually why bands disband quickly after releasing an album. It's because it's just not, financially viable to do fuck all, and you're tied in to an agreement. You wait that sucker out, you get the rights to it back. Bands like Dog Fashion Disco have been doing that recently. They've been re-recording all their songs and re-releasing all their albums again because they've finally reacquired the rights to them. Clutch did the same. Clutch did, like re-released albums as soon as they got them back in their domain, and I like that because the money's going back to them. And to be honest, they fucking wrote the songs. The money should be going to them. So yeah, I mean, this is it's not my favourite Deadsy album. I still think it's a thumping good one. There is not one band that sounds like Deadsy, like at all. They have a very unique sound. And like I say, Commencement is the one I would push you to. Commencement is a bitchin' album which has now sadly disappeared from all digital media, which I hope they re-release that. I have some complaints. So this is not a complete glowing soapy hand job to Deadsy here. A couple of complaints are they've modified the ends of some of these songs. And this is an album I'm very familiar with, so it stood out like a sore thumb. Where a track would fade out, they've kind of let it continue playing till like the synth rings out. So they last just a little bit longer than they originally did, and I don't see that as being anything useful. I actually preferred them kind of, fading out. Like the end of Better Than You Know was already quite long and it was repetitive. It's now they've added about an extra 30 seconds. I added 30 minutes on it, Dave. That's how long it rang out. 30 seconds on the end, which like it already loops the same thing over and over again. It just felt a bit needless. And the new track, the bonus new track they've put on, is Friends, a song that they originally released, I think, as a B-side back in 2006. About the same time the album came out. So to me, there should be a new song in here. Or they have a sea of fucking demos that are online of really amazing ideas for songs that you hear the raw demo version, you're like, oh, that would sound amazing with great production, and they've never done anything with them. Re-record one, you're in the studio, re-record one of them and put it on here. So, whilst I'm glad it's back out in digital media, I think people should listen to this. I think it's a great album. I think Deadsy are one of the criminally underrated bands of that era. Orgy were the one that had Blue Monday. Interestingly enough, Jay Gordon from Orgy played in this band, and the guitarist Carlton Bost, who currently plays in Deadsy, actually plays in Orgy at the moment. So, synchronicity there. Orgy were the band that obviously were the more commercial one. They had that Blue Monday single. They became the big band. Also out in Elementary, interestingly enough. So Korn released their album as well. And Deadsy were always like, if this is the commercial one, this is the underground or undercore version of what they're doing. And I've always had a soft spot for that. I always had a soft spot for a band that, like I say, financially don't have to do this. They're minted. they're all relatively well off and have careers out with this that are sustaining them quite comfortably, even if that is, I'm married to this chick that does all these movies. You know what I mean?
If you're rich enough to clear a freaking Led Zeppelin sample, you definitely do not need to do this.
yeah. So they are fine, and the fact that they're wanting to come back and do something excites me, and I really can't wait to hear what Deadsy sound 14 years after their last album and almost 30 years into their career. I can't wait to hear what that sounds like, because I do find them really interesting. This, I mean, as a release, I hope the money goes back to them. It was why it was I got it straight away. I hope they get all the pennies for it and all the rest. It's not their best release. Commencement's their best release, but it's nice to see them back on the map. I know this is always going to be a hard sell for you, Dave, and I've talked so long so that you might talk very little on this, because you're right. I have painstakingly tried to fucking thrust this, but some would say almost forcefully molest you with this band several fucking times, and they've never clicked. And I have a distinct memory of you telling me you listened to this album and you thought it was pretty good, and then recently I'm sure you told me you listened to this album before the remaster and you were like that, I don't think I've ever heard this album, which surprised me. So go
confusion.
for it. Yeah, go for it.
Some confusion.
What did you make it?
Yeah, the album that I'd heard before was Commencement, which I did really like. This one, I have some memories of some tracks sounded familiar, others not so much. Okay, where to start with this one?
Be kind.
Well,
be kind.
I'll be as kind as I can. Let's start off with remasters, because it's a bit of a contentious subject for me. I think on the plus side, I think they're a good idea for older albums that were maybe made at a time where they didn't have the kind of technology we have now.
Or 8-string guitars, Dave.
That was a re-recording, though, not a remaster. Those albums, I think, can really benefit from a remaster.
Yeah.
For folks that don't know what remastering is, this is different to like re-recording or remixing of an album. This is usually to like fix minor flaws, like apply noise reduction, eliminate clicks or hum or hiss, or adjust the stereo width and a bit of volume, maybe a bit of equalization across the tracks, compression, that sort of stuff. Something that can be performed on the kind of complete mixed recording. Now, I personally, I don't have a lot of time for remastered albums. I think a lot of them are completely pointless. Plus, I kind of like the time and place time and place of the idea behind the originals.
Yeah.
But I will admit that I have heard a few that have benefited greatly from a remaster.
Lamb of God?
Well, yeah, that's one of my examples. Over the years, we've heard albums from bands like Lamb of God, Napalm Death have done it, Bolt Thrower, Meshuggah have remastered other stuff. At the Gates is a good one as well. Whitechapel as well. And that Lamb of God album, As the Palaces Burn, was miles better.
He did not like the original.
I hated the original. And I thought it made a huge difference. The remaster of that album was huge. You could hear a clear improvement on the dynamic range on that album. And to be honest, I reckon this is something we're going to see a hell of a lot more of in the next 6 months to a year because of COVID and the fact that bands are delaying new albums because they can't tour them. I think we'll see a lot of bands re-releasing remastered versions of their older albums.
Yeah, anniversaries in particular, I think it feels right. If your album's turning 20, where a lot of bands were doing that gimmick of touring that, we're going to do a tour where we're going to play this album in its entirety. It does kind of feel like a lot of bands are just going to go, we're just going to remaster it because we can't tour.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not because the album necessarily needs remastered.
Yeah.
I think it keeps people interested. Obviously, while there's this big delay with all the kind of COVID stuff. And also, like remasters, there usually comes a vinyl release as well. I've seen a lot of bands that have remastered albums, then putting out vinyls, and that I can see the point of that is financial benefit for the band.
It's a vinyl for this being released as well, Dave. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. But I understand that, and especially in this current climate. But anyway, I digress. Back to Phantasmagore. After listening to this album, I think it is a good album, actually. It's definitely more polished sounding than their debut. I think it has a handful of really good tracks on it. In particular, I love the opening track. I love Razor Love.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic track. I love the chorus on that. I don't think there's necessarily any out and out bad songs on this, to be honest. I think it's just an album that it doesn't leave a huge impression on me, or as much as their debut did anyway. There are some tracks that kind of just pass me by, that maybe just don't have the hooks of some of the others. But in saying that, the tracks that do really kind of hit a home run, they do show how good the band's musical talent and their songwriting ability actually is. I actually liked the ones that were quite synth heavy. Like I really liked Better
Dave.
Than You Know, what you mentioned.
Yes, Dave. It's my homeboy.
The other one I liked was is it Asura?
Yeah, it's a really nice sounding. It's got weird to say that, but it's a really nice sounding song.
Yeah, I actually really liked that as well. And the title track is really good as well. But I found those tracks had really good vocal hooks on them. So it was probably a combination of that and the synths that I actually really enjoyed. And as you said, I actually didn't mind the Paint It Black cover. I quite enjoyed. In terms of the structure of it and the melodies, it sticks fairly close to the original, but they've put a little bit of a Deadsy. I was going to say Orgy there. A little bit of a Deadsy spin on it.
You don't know that it's like you don't know, like the Deadsy Orgy debate is like the Spandau Ballet fucking Duran Duran debate. You don't fuck that up, Dave, ever. Like,
so sorry.
Both bands have been riddled in arguments about who ripped off who since time immemorial. So don't do it, Dave. Don't anger the internet. He's smiling when he said it, listeners. You can't see him. He knew what he did. You can see it in his eyes.
Yeah, so I think it's a decent cover version. I think maybe they could have probably went a bit creepier on it, if I'm honest. But still, I thought it was decent. As for the remastering of the album, I think it's a fairly subtle difference to the original, in my opinion.
Agreed, 100%.
I think overall, it sounds probably more evened out. If that's what I could take from it. The remaster, it sounds more balanced. I think. I found it was a little less kind of boomy in points. So I think maybe the album sounds slightly cleaner, maybe. But again, as I said, it's very subtle. It's not a huge difference. To be honest, I don't think the original had a particularly bad mix or master on it. I think it still sounds like a great album, which makes me think that this has been done for other reasons. Possibly because they're coming back with a new album in 2021. And this re-release creates again a bit of buzz about the band, maybe pulls in some new fans in the process. And we both, as you said, we both realised that Commencement is now not on any digital streaming platform.
Which I hadn't even realised that it disappeared. So that to me makes me excited, because Commencement is an album that definitely could use a remaster, because some of those songs are the original recordings from like 97. Like, as an that's one of the reasons I kind of really like the sound of that album, is some of the kind of more kind of weirder, darker, obscure moments have a different production sound than the rest of the album, and that's because they were recorded like 5 years before. So I think there's like, to me, that's exciting, whereas this is kind of, I'm with you, I'm listening, it's an album I've listened to 1,000,000 times before, and I'm listening to this one, and it sounds a bit, this was well produced to begin with. So it was on Immortal Epic, you know what I mean? It was like, it was a well produced album, and it doesn't feel like they've done a huge amount. Like, I'm not like, oh, there's the bass guitar I couldn't hear before. You know what I mean? It's not like that sort of release. So
yeah, I know. So as I said, I hadn't listened to this. I don't think I'd listened to it in full ever, to be honest. But the tracks that I'd heard, I hadn't heard for a long time. But even now, I think 14 years later, I think it actually holds up pretty well. The album. I agree with you. It's not my favourite Deadsy album. But still, I found it an enjoyable listen. Not sure the remaster was completely needed, but I understand why they've done it. Kyle, I know you've not had much of a chance to listen to this, but what have you made of Deadsy on your short listen?
Of all the songs I've listened to by Deadsy, I have listened to one. About 15 minutes ago. And I gotta tell you, if everything you're saying is true, I can absolutely see it. I love that song. What was it called again? I've got a clue.
Babes in the Wood, I think.
Babes in Abyss.
Babes in the Abyss.
Yeah, it's a really good song. I picked up right away, what was it I said? Billy Idol influence and stuff like that. And I love all kinds of 80s synth rock and, all that, poppy stuff with all the synth, Gary Newman and Duran Duran. I love all that stuff too. So, I mean, I can definitely hear it carrying over there. And then the Pete Steele tone of voice as well, with definitely a typo negative type of thing in there with the under rock. What was it? Undercore?
Undercore, yeah.
Yeah. So they've won a fan in me. So, I mean, one song, one time, not so long ago. I hope they re-release the album you're talking about, because if it's better than this, then I am all for it.
I think you're going to be a big old fan of Commencement, because it has there's a little bit of the Bowie in there as well on that album. So
I do like some Bowie.
And they covered the Bowie song, I think, way back in the day as well. He's like they're an the thing about them is, I think they're an interesting band who came out at a time where, very much like Deftones, everyone pigeonholed Deftones really quickly as new metal, and they have an album that's new metal, let's be honest. But then they very quickly distanced themselves from that. The Keys to Gramercy Park, which is the first song on Commencement, is a new metal song, and Jonathan Davis is on it, and I'll give them that. The rest of the album does not sound like that at all. It goes off in weird and wonderful places. A couple of cover songs on that album as well, which are really good. Like unusual cover, not Tom Sawyer, which is totally the obvious cover. But yeah, just some of the moments, man. And then I come at this, and this is the refined album from the band that are on the big record label releasing it, and that's what it sounds like. And I feel that they lost a little bit of it, but you are right. I mean, the songwriting's there. They're good at what they do, and it's clear that they have a sound, and they stick to that sound, and that's, that works most of the time, and they carry it right through. What their new album's going to sound like, who the fuck knows? Who knows, man? I can't wait. They've been on the bucket list of bands I have wanted to see before I die forever. And if they manage to get, they never toured Scotland. They never came to Scotland on their original runs. If they get across here, I will curb stomp motherfuckers to get a ticket, because I am, But I like we mentioned when we were talking about Gears Kid on a review, I'm a mark for certain things, and that kind of dark pop stuff I'm a total mark for, and Deadsy have their own version of it, and I kind of love it. So
nice. Should we do a rating for this album? So Duncan, your rating of the re-release of Phantasmagore, what are you sitting at?
As a 4. I think it's a really fucking good album. Like I said, if I had not listened to this a million times before, I'd be like, Dave, you know what? I'm going to be listening to this a million times. But I have, and I still will. It's a great album, and I hope it brings in a brand new audience and a brand new interest of people ahead of the forthcoming release, and fingers crossed, motherfucker, that we get that commencement re-release, because that, to me, this could be different level shit. This could really be different level shit if they get some of the remasters on that. They have a song in it called "She Likes Big Words," and the original version, there's a synth kind of interlude breakdown thing. That noise that we're hearing was me pretending to play a keyboard, with my fingers kind of going. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that. Kind of sounds like a bat in the distance. But I said on the original release of that, and I'll find it once we finish recording. On the original release, there was a saxophone solo in the middle, and it's not needed at all. But they're like, there's a saxophone. I don't even think it's a real saxophone. I think it's a synth sax, which is even fucking better. 4 out of 5. Dave, where are you coming in, buddy?
4 out of 5. Like if I was reviewing this back when it was released, like when you first said to me, Dave, you need to listen to Deadsy, I'd been like, fuck this.
You would have been.
I would have hated this.
I think you did back then as well.
I'm pretty sure I did. But now, like 14 years after this album's been released, I quite enjoyed it. I would probably go 3.5 on this one.
Do that. You wouldn't give it a 4, would you? Can you pull yourself up to give it the same review I would? Incidentally, Commencement's a 5-star album for me. Like I say, I think it's masterpiece. Ain't an album that sounds like it. I kind of love it. But yeah, there we go. Kyle, nice. The one song you listen to, 4 out of 5?
I listened to one song, one time. 4 out of 5.
There we go. That's all I need. That's all I need. Case closed.
Nice. This one is out already. It came out on the 2nd of November, so it's available on all the digital streaming platforms. So you can now check it out. You can check out the band online, facebook.com/Deadsy Music. I'll put a little link in the description below, so you can check them out. Let us know what you think of this remaster of Phantasmagore, or if you've even heard the original, let us know what you think. Put some comments in below. Happy to hear your comments and opinions on this one. Thanks for checking out our review. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye everyone.
Bye.